But no,
I like that, an immediate retraction.
No, it's not true. I said it, but it's not true. But everything that I was going to be, I sort of already was. I just had to get the room and the space and the place to let it come out, come together. You know, the parts were there, and the Imagist influence was already built into the mix. You know, so yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, where else would I find a place that would let me do that? You know, probably if it weren't for that.
That's different from looking like them. I don't think you do look.
I don't either. Never have. Well, we got a few of them sitting in the audience. They can probably weigh in on it.
You ripped me off, Jim. I know you. Is that what you're going to say, Phyllis?
Phyllis, yeah.
Something that impacted me profoundly was when Philip Guston, that show came in, I think it was 1980 or 81. And that was also during a period where painting had been kind of like, painterly painting touch had been kind of like pushed aside. And he had died. He just died, I think, right before. And I've often wondered how, and that show I can travel across the country, how many people were, stood there and said, "Oh my God, what was I thinking to maybe work on paper or do sculpture, but not really address painting?" Were you here when that show was up?
Well, I don't know, but I was aware of Guston and his shift to figurative stuff. I think when I was still an undergrad, I think he's another artist that Galen brought in and said, check this out. And it was interesting to me, there was a context for that, because Galen had done sort of the same thing, abandoned abstraction and started making these goofy figurative things, a cartoony style of painting, and it was, I think the impulses that led to all those things were probably the same among the same generation of people. Galen was that generation as well, although Galen's work is much less the New York school painterly version, much more the more dry formal sort of approach that Galen had. But no, I was powerfully. I mean, I couldn't do a lot of things I wanted to do because of Guston. I mean, he owns that stuff. You can't get around that. And he's influenced me, but it's kind of kept me honest more than anything.
What's funny, I mean, is I was trying to point out before with the Northwest Coast mystic abstraction, they were never, that they seemed to be fine, painting a kind of semi-permeable membrane between abstraction and figuration without declaring, allegiance to either camp in any ideological fashion. Thinking of that is in fact, when you say that you came to the bigger picture of art history sort of through that lens, in a way, right? But then to say, actually, that lens is in some sense more, it's color corrected. In that you could go through, figure by figure, de Kooning, the defection with the women in '54, like Guston, and go down the line and say, wait, what, they may have qualified as some kind of ideological purist in the Greenbergian sense at one point, to construct an argument, but in fact that doesn't hold throughout, in that fashion. So it's quite an interesting, place to have come from.
Right. Yeah.
Already in that.
Well, no, I always sort of thought of the ideological divide, if you will, all came from critics. It didn't come from painters or artists, because painters, everything's more complicated than that. At least that's my understanding of it. So I've never bought into that divide, because it would split me down the middle if I did. I mean, I started painting when it was after it was declared dead. So, and I always found that a kind of a freeing thing. I mean, it's like we were talking about this difference between abstraction and figuration. What point does that make when you're not even supposed to paint?
You're dead.
And
Well, do you struggle with the idea of the death of painting?
Yeah, I think about it a lot. The thing is, the death of painting is about the death of anybody wanting to see painting. Okay, it's not about whether you can still paint or not. It's about whether anybody will show up when you do. Seriously. No, really, that's what it's about. And I feel it. See, I understand it because I feel it myself. I can't tolerate a lot of painting, you know. I go to my certain things, you know. A certain show will be really great or something, but a lot of it I can't take, you know. I mean, it just, there's not enough there for me, you know. And I'm I think we're, as an audience, we're sort of desensitized in a way from all the media stuff that we do, the computer and the TV and stuff. And the younger the audience is, the more that's true. So the audience is going to go away from painting, or it's going to come back because people persist in doing it, and interesting people do it, and they make interesting paintings, and all of a sudden people are there, you know. So I don't think it's ever going to completely die. There might be fewer people doing it, and that might be a good thing. You know, I mean, I don't know. You know, great art is what we're all after, and sometimes, in my case, I mean, I could have do other things. I know how to make other things, but I never have because painting is so compelling. I mean, I've gotten so far down that road that starting over with some other shtick just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. Plus, you know, with painting, you can, because it's the world of illusion, I can sort of get an idea and I can paint a picture of it, you know. I don't need to interface with, I don't need an army of people to help me make my work. I don't need to take up too much space, you know. I don't know. These are the things I worry about. Does the world need any more paintings? I don't know, you know. I don't know, but this is what I'm doing, and you know, if people keep showing up, I'll keep making them, you know. I might even keep making them anyway.
Yeah, what you said.
I have. There have been fewer people than this in the room before, and I was still making them. So.
Yeah. Well, you said at one point, you said, well, I'm now making the paintings more for me than anybody else.
Yeah, right.
But I can't remember what it was in relationship to, but it was, in terms of keeping...
well, I own most of them,
yeah.
You know. Yeah. That wasn't the way, it didn't used to be like that, but now it is. I own a lot of my own paintings. So, I mean, I've been working hard for a long time, and I've been pretty productive, so I got a lot of paintings in the, and so if I'm going to have them, I want to have them be worth having, you know. You know. I don't know, you know.
Make the paintings I want to see.
Right, exactly. Painting I can live with for a couple of years, you know, 20 or 30.
All right. Well, that's a great note to close on.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sam.
This program is partially supported by a grant from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency.